Welcome back to Observing the Sabbath. I am your host, Nathaniel Molnar. I'm joined once again by Johnny Gifford. Johnny, thanks for being here.
It is such a pleasure. Thank you, Nathaniel.
Oh, no problem at all. So, you and I mean, we've done most of this album so far, but you and I specifically, we've done FX, we've done Supernaut, and now we're moving on to Snowblind. So before we get right into it, some interesting facts about this song in particular. So originally, Black Sabbath wanted to name the album Snowblind. They wanted to name it. That was the song that they wanted to name the album after. However, the studio did not want to name their song, name the album after such a clear drug reference, and so they ultimately went with Volume 4. But if you look at the inside of the Volume 4 album, in there, it actually says, while they're listing off everyone who they thank, they say they'd like to thank the great Coca-Cola Company. Coke in all caps. Because, as many people know, for the making of Volume 4, while they were in studio, they would literally have giant speakers full of cocaine delivered to the studio. Wow. So they would have just giant speakers come in, and then they'd open it up and they'd pull out all the cocaine, and they'd do all the cocaine. And that
as one does.
And that is how Volume 4 was made, through speakerfuls of cocaine. And so that's how you get Snowblind, which is this is such a great song. I feel like I'm going to say that for every single song on this album. But it's such a great song. And I just want to get right into it. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, let's listen to Snowblind. As we were talking about with Supernaut, I mentioned that the opener of Snowblind is so great, that works so perfectly as the B-side of the album. And it's such a powerful opening.
It just hits you immediately, you know? Mm-hmm. I love that.
I love this riff.
Oh, just like the slow arpeggios. Like, you got like the rhythm, and then the arpeggios. It repeats a couple times. And now we're just to our just sit back and let's just cruise along.
Yeah. And Ozzy's voice is so great on this song.
Yeah. It's got a good vocal melody there.
And in case you didn't know what the song was about, they let you know.
My brain.
Cocaine.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Just like really, really subtly right there. I think that's funny.
Yeah.
I like that line though. Icicles within my brain.
Yeah. Feeling happy in my pain. Icicles within my brain. Yeah. There's a lot of great lyrics on this song. Mm-hmm. Like very poetic. Like the song has a lot of like very poetry-esque lyrics, more so than many of their other songs.
Yeah, they're like. So obviously, like, the term for cocaine is snow, like snowblind, and then they take that snow and that cold feeling that maybe you get from, like, the stabs within your nose or your brain of, like, initially snorting cocaine or whatever. They take that, like, literally as cold, and they're drawing those parallels between cocaine, snow, the sensations, and just coldness.
Yeah.
So it's like this, if you weren't, like, aware that it was about cocaine, you might think it's about them being like really cold or something.
Oh, Ozzy's just caught in a blizzard. Come on,
freezing.
No,
yeah,
that comes years later though. With Blizzard of Oz. But
you're right.
I love this whole part. My eyes are blind, but I can see snowflakes glisten on the trees. And his voice is so great in this part.
Yeah, it's really like harmonic here. It's like you got him. Usually when he's just like screaming his lyrics, it's just like one single track, but he's got a few of them. They're harmonizing with each other. They're like kind of sitting a little more with the instrumentals. It's nice. And it's kind of describing, it follows the imagery that he's describing as well, you know? More of a scenic picture.
Yeah. It feels very much like
a classic Tony solo.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah, and Tony's solos and riffs and everything. And the song changes pace so many times. And that's something I keep talking about with Sabbath is like they'll have so many riffs in one song, and so you have that here definitely. Like you have like the main riff that we're listening to now. You'll have his solo, but then it completely changes things up. Like halfway through the song, it goes in a completely different direction.
Yeah, they love doing that, and I love that they do that. For at least the first, like, for at least the majority of this song, though, they're kind of staying with the same themes, progressions, chords, and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But that is a very common thing that they do throughout a lot of their albums, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, there's that arpeggiated riff again. I really like that.
And then here we go.
And here we go.
This is the mosh part. This is the part everyone starts going.
You hear the guitar play, like the solo guitar, and everyone's just like, "Oh shit, it's time to kill each other."
Yeah. I love this whole part. Don't you think I know what I'm doing? Don't tell me what I'm doing is wrong. You're the one who's really the loser. This is where I feel I belong.
Yeah, and like the angriness of the lyrics really translates to the angriness of the music for that verse.
And then we're right back to the main riff.
Yep.
And then there's this little part that comes in over this next part that I really like. It's like, is it a keyboard or something? Maybe it's like a pedal. It's that little, like, ringing.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what it is.
And then Tony comes in.
I could see it as being a guitar or a keyboard, honestly. Just very affected for sure.
Yeah. I know they didn't really, like, use keyboards prominently until after Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Because the song Sabracadabra, they used the keyboard with that. And then pretty much Sabotage, Technical Ecstasy, and Never Say Die. Then they were prominently using and touring with a keyboardist. I'm blanking on their name. But that was just, like, became part of the sound. So I don't know if they were using a keyboard necessarily yet when they were doing the song, but it was something. But Tony...
Yeah, I think it is one, actually. But it's just, like you said, they're not really using it too prominently. It's just an accent here, really.
Yeah.
Because Tony's still soloing like crazy over it.
Yeah. Oh, and I love his solos in this. Like, it's got the... it sounds so good. It's so good.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So, and very, as we were kind of talking about when we were discussing Supernaut, very interesting compliments to each other. Like, you have Supernaut, which is just a very aggressive, over-the-top, like, punch to the face kind of song. And then Snowblind starts off as a little bit more slower, more melodic, just kind of like easing you into things. And then it hits its high part. And then it kind of slows down again, and it has, I wouldn't say it's as aggressive as Supernaut, but it has its aggressive points.
It's definitely like, with that and in Supernaut, like the sort of comparison there, it's a song structure that like has worked for them a lot in the past and just works very well in general, I think. Sort of starting out with a thing and then building to a peak and then like going back on that a little. It helps emphasize that peak too, to say like this like peak of loudness, of rhythm, of melody, just like it only happens for a short period of time, and that makes it that much more special. It makes it stick out to the listener that much more as being like important, an important moment. And like that's when Ozzy's singing about like his anger, and the Snowblind at least he's singing about his anger of like why is everyone judging me for this? Don't tell me what to do. I'm like totally happy right now. Don't like rain on my parade, kind of in a very aggressive and angry way.
Yeah.
He really wants to get his point across, and just the fact that it's right there and only right there really is like a wake-up call, I guess, to anyone who's listening. It's like if you're going to pay attention to anything in particular, you're going to pay attention to that moment. Definitely.
Completely agree. So I guess my next question to you, so we discussed Sweet Leaf, and we discussed now Snowblind. How would you both compare and contrast the two, and which would you say you ultimately prefer?
I mean, that's such a hard comparison to make, honestly. They're both so good.
Obviously, the connection being that the two are the two drug center songs on that they've done.
Yeah, I think, I mean, from a sonic point of view, I think this song is produced better. I think there's more, like, ultimately more going on in this song that makes it more of an interesting listen. In terms of lyrics, I guess not being an avid cocaine user, but being an appreciator of marijuana, I guess I appreciate Sweet Leaf in that way, in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
And just the lyrics in that one are more like kind of carefree and more like come on, man, like I don't even know how to put it in words. You get basically what the song's saying. This song, on the other hand, is like, with that middle bridge part aside of the angry bridge aside, there's some really beautiful imagery in Snowblind, I think, and just the analogs that they're making to cold weather, to blizzards, and to icicles and things of that nature are really nice. And if you just look at those lyrics, like with the cocaine analogy aside, they're really beautiful lyrics, and they really evoke a lot of imagery that I think is just really well written. So this one's like the more well crafted and honed in version of their drug song, and I appreciate it for that regard. But I think Sweet Leaf is the more like raw, like, oh, let's just get stoned and like rock out kind of vibe. It's a lot more like laid back, I guess. This one's taking itself a little more seriously.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I agree with all that. I would say, for me personally, I think I may have said this when we did our Sweet Leaf video. I think Snowblind is the more elegant song, in that I think the lyrics are definitely better. Like, I think it's better written and more well written in Snowblind than Sweet Leaf. I mean, I love the lyrics of Sweet Leaf and I love the feel of Sweet Leaf. Snowblind, I think, is just more well written. As I kind of made the comparison in this video, it feels like poetry.
Absolutely.
And everything you're saying with like sort of the analogy to ice and blizzards and will my ice age ever come, and like that whole sort of that line that they draw all the way through with snow, I think it's just so well done. I think in terms of like the main riffs, because obviously you got the main riff of Sweet Leaf and you got the main riff of Snowblind. I think the main riff of Sweet Leaf has more power. But I think the main riff of Snowblind kind of fits the song better. I don't know if that makes sense. But I feel like the overall craft and tone of Snowblind, I think, works better than Sweet Leaf. Although I love Sweet Leaf. I love the main riff. I love the solo in the middle. I love all the lyrics. It just feels to me like Snowblind, they may have sat down a little bit longer and crafted that a little bit more than they did Sweet Leaf.
Absolutely.
And part of that, I think, may be that they were originally planning on Snowblind being the name of the album, so that was going to be the song. That was going to be the main focus of the entire album. And probably their constant consumption and love of cocaine made them take it just a little bit more seriously. And they put a little bit more effort into it. But also just, you know, they've had more experience by the time that they get to Volume 4. They have Master of Reality behind them, so they understand a little bit more about putting together an album and structure and flow, and so it just works a little bit more for Snowblind. I love both songs. I love them both. I think I would have to slightly take Snowblind over Sweet Leaf, but that's just me. I absolutely love Sweet Leaf as well, though.
Yeah. I think I like them for different reasons, so it's kind of hard to pick one over the other. But I guess objectively speaking, I think this is just like a better song.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think in retrospect, I think it's interesting that out of all their songs, they really only have 2 drug songs. Since drugs were such a big part of their lives for the 8 years that they were together. I guess you could make the case Hand to Doom is about like heroin and drug use, but it's not in the same I guess, quote, pun intended, vein as Sweet Leaf and Snowblind, because Sweet Leaf and Snowblind are all about like how much they love these drugs and just how great it is, and it's sort of like both are love songs to the drugs that they love, whereas Hand of Doom is more like a cautionary tale about the use of heroin. So I guess technically they have 3, but I think it's interesting that for how much drugs were a part of their lives, that there's only a few songs that are actually about that.
Yeah, do you think there was any like pressure from the record companies to like not make too many songs about that?
Maybe. I don't know. That's a good point. Maybe,
Yeah.
but I also feel like they also already did songs that were about that. And
True.
I'm sure there were other, I mean, I can't think of specifics off the top of my head, but I'm sure there were other artists around the same time also doing songs about drugs. So that may have been part of it. But also I feel like as Black Sabbath gets bigger as a band, once you get into, say, like the second half of their 8 years, they're more calling the shots. However, I guess to a point with Sabotage, while they were making Sabotage, they were in and out of all these legal dramas. So that's a very good point, that it may have been more pressure to not go in that direction. But also it may just be that their focus for what kinds of things they wanted to discuss change. Because you definitely see a very interesting, if you look at Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, there's definitely a lot of interesting things that they're discussing lyrically in that album. And you also see that once you move on through the rest of the albums. But yeah, I think comparing and contrasting Sweet Leaf and Snowblind is a very interesting place to go to. Both are great songs, and I think both have their merits individually, but I personally would just kind of go a little bit more towards Snowblind.
Yeah, they're definitely like the analog to each other of Master of Reality and to Volume 4. They share a lot of similarities. If I remember correctly, Sweet Leaf has a very similar song structure to Snowblind, does it not?
Yeah, I would say,
Yeah.
I'd say it's very much along the same lines, where you have that kind of the main riff carrying all the way through, and then you have the explosive middle part, and then it kind of goes back to that original. Yeah, they kind of share similar lines.
Yeah, and just that makes them two very good songs to compare to one another for a multitude of reasons. But yeah, no, they're both fantastic songs, and it is surprising that they didn't write more about drugs, but given that they wrote about so many different things, like, good for them, honestly, for not just sticking to one concept, because they're writing about change, they're writing about, like, just crazy stories, they're writing about love, they really have a decent, like, reach in terms of the kinds of things that they're writing about.
Absolutely. I think the only thing that would have made Snowblind better is if it had the little sample of someone snorting cocaine that repeats, and then you go right into it.
You see, this is Volume 4. This is the album that they're taking themselves more seriously on. The last one, it was more of a joke to them.
Well, 3 songs ago, they were just banging crosses on guitars while completely naked and fucked up. So,
but they made it sound very eerie.
Yes. All right, you got a point there.
Yeah, even though their motives were totally just joking, like, they made it sound like, take us seriously. This is serious and scary and spooky.
Yeah.
Even though that's not it at all.
So, they definitely did a great job. So this is a very nice cluster of songs that we've been discussing here. Unless if you have other points you'd like to discuss about Snowblind, I've kind of wrapped up all my thoughts.
Yeah, I think I have as well. 2 or 3, I guess, very great songs for us to talk about, all in a row too.
Yeah.
They just hit. They really do.
Absolutely. So Volume 4 is a jam-packed album. Lots to unpack. And I'll be continuing on through the rest of the album before we move on to Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. But that's going to do it for our discussion of Snowblind. I want to know from you, what are your thoughts on the song? Do you agree with our lines of thinking about the song, or do you disagree? And I also want to know from you, where do you stand on Sweet Leaf v. Snowblind? Do you take the Sweet Leaf side? Do you take the Snowblind side? Not necessarily your preference of drug, but your preference of song. I would also be curious to know your preference of drug as well. Leave all your
either
thoughts.
or.
Yeah, either or. Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. Well, once again, I'm your host, Nathaniel Molnar. I'd like to thank Johnny Gifford for being here. Thank you for helping me out with this.
Thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure.
It's always great to have you on. You can make sure to like, to comment, and to subscribe for more content. And until we discuss the next song up, which I believe is Cornucopia, until then, thank you for watching.